Hello, this is David Webb, and tonight I am making a video of Game 6 of US-UK 4, which is the 4th annual Internet Scrabble tournament between the US and the UK. The first 3 tournaments were won 2-1 by the UK, but in this year's tournament the US has a 4-1 lead, which means that victory tonight would guarantee them victory. Although we are going to be playing all 9 games in the tournament to determine the margin of victory. Tonight's game is between Jeff Thievenot of the United States and Helen Gibson of the United Kingdom. And we're underway. It's Helen's turn to play first. And she has a good rack, but not a bingo-y rack. I can't see a bingo with the letters that she has. But she will easily be able to make a play and leave herself with a reasonable rack leave. A simple play such as DOW, D-O-W across there, would leave A-E-N-T, which is a fine leave for bingo prospects on the next turn. A more open play would be something like wanted across here with the W on the double letter score, but that opens up a lot of floating tiles for Jeff to bingo through. It also opens up access to these double word squares. So DOW, DOW, is probably the best play. A move like wanted as well leaves a rack leave of just the A. So the only reason for playing wanted would really be for the score, which would be 28 compared to 14 for DOW. We do have the advantage of joining our railbirds tonight. We can see their comments on the right hand side of the screen, and if there are any good plays, they are usually quite keen to pop up and tell us about them. Helen plays wanted, and Jeff has the rack we see at the top of the screen. The first thing Jeff will be doing will be to see if he has a bingo. I can't immediately see one myself, and none of our railbirds has volunteered any suggestions. This is not an easy rack to play. Jeff has the S and should be able to leave a decent rack leave after making his play. The problem he has is scoring. And Jeff plays hedonist, which is a terrific move. It does, however, open up this bingo lane here. And as well as being a bingo lane, any word ending in an S can be played across here for a big score, because the letters in hedonist will be tripled as well as the play made. Helen doesn't have the S to take advantage of the hedonist play. She does have the Z, which should be good for scoring, but on the downside she has a duplicate A and a W. So it's going to be difficult for Helen to leave herself with good bingo-y tiles after making her play. One play that I can see would be Colzar through here, putting the Z on this triple letter square. That would sort out the duplicate A and score well. It would, however, leave the W on her rack. And she may be worrying about Jeff having the S to pluralise hedonist. Another possibility that's being suggested is zeta through here, which would certainly obstruct Jeff's access to the triple word square on the bottom row. And the suggestions are coming in thick and fast, because we're also having suggested alteza through here, which again places the Z on the triple letter square. And one other possibility is Kaz across here, but that's probably not as good as the others we've discussed. Helen plays Colza, and Jeff comes back immediately with Feis's for 90 points, which is a terrific play. 90 points is more than you get for the average bingo, so Jeff is fortunate to score that much with just 5 tiles, and clearly he's sorted his rack out by being able to play off an F, a Y and a C, which together would not contribute to a bingo-y rack. Looking now at Helen's rack, we see that she has a W and a U, which is one of the worst pairs of letters to have on your rack, because neither letter appears in many bingos, and very few bingos contain both letters. It's also a problem to have on your rack because it's difficult to get rid of both letters. Not only do W and U not appear in many bingos together, they don't appear in many words of any length together. One excellent suggestion from our railbirds is to play Wharf down here, W-A-U-F-F, and that sorts out all of Helen's problems. That would leave a rack leave of E-I-R, which, apart from the excess of vowels, is a very good rack leave. Let's see how many railbirds we have tonight. 84 people. Half an hour ago, England beat France in the semi-final of the Rugby World Cup, so maybe some of the UK supporters are celebrating that magnificent victory. And Helen plays Wharf. Excellent, well done, Helen. Jeff has drawn the first blank, but he doesn't have a bingo on his rack. He does, however, have the X, and he will be looking to score. And he does. He gets 45 points for Vex, also getting rid of the V. Helen has the other V, and a balanced rack, but not a bingo-y rack. Notice how the board is closing up. A couple of moves ago, we had all these bingo lanes open, or both of these bingo lanes open, and both of those have closed up, and we also had bingo lines down here which have been greatly obstructed. Bingo lines which remain are through the A of Colza and playing onto the end of Colza if Helen or Jeff were to have an S. Helen is over 100 points behind, which means she very much has an uphill struggle to get back in this game, but it's certainly not hopeless. We can see from the bottom left of the screen that there are still 57 tiles left, so there's plenty of opportunity for Helen to come back into this game. And she scores 56 points for Veery, which is an excellent score. Jeff, however, has a terrific rack, and our railbirds have immediately suggested propanes through the A of Colzar. Tokoloshi, whose suggestion that was, has added etc., suggesting that he believes there are other bingos out there. Well, there may be, but I'm struggling to see them. Propanes would be an excellent move, however, obstructing both of the bingo lanes that utilise Colzar. That is the one through the A and the one which would hook an S onto the end of Colzar. Notice that Helen's play of Vary has not opened a bingo lane down here because V does not feature as the second letter of any two-letter words. Jeff is taking his time over this move, but he still has 21 minutes left, and he may well be looking to find a bingo which goes through both double word squares. Tokaloshi, who is Stuart Holden, is suggesting unprops as another possibility. I'll just check that that word is good. It's not one that I'm familiar with, although it sounds plausible, and we can see from the checking facility in this software program that unprops is a good word, and that can be played down here and probably scores more than propanes. Well, Jeff plays propanes, which is not as good as unprops, and I wonder if that's because he was uncertain as to the validity of unprops. When you've got a bingo that you're not totally sure of, and you've also got a bingo that you are totally sure of, it can be sensible to take the one that you are sure of. In this case, propanes. Helen has a horrible rack with 3 N's and 2 I's, and she's 140 points behind. So things are not looking good for Helen or the United Kingdom team. If Helen loses tonight, the US have won the tournament, levelling the cumulative total over the years at 2 tournaments apiece. And I have seen no suggestions at all from our railbirds as to what Helen should do with this rack. We've got a bingo lane down here, and there is one ending in the N, but that or ending ing down to here. And Helen could do with opening more bingo lanes, and one way of doing that would be to play across here. But Helen will also want to sort out the duplicate letters on her rack. Remg has made the comment, unprops isn't in TWL, which is a very good observation. The US players play with an official word list called TWL. The rest of the world, or most of the rest of the world, and this tournament are playing with a word list which consists of TWL plus a lot of other words, and unprops is one of the words that is in the larger word list but not in the word list that American players like Jeff Thievnot usually play with. So it is indeed possible that Jeff simply wasn't aware or confident of the word unprops. Helen plays Annie, which goes some way to resolving the duplicate letter problems, and she opens up this bingo lane down here without impeding this bingo lane. So that's a good play. Jeff, however, comes back with a 42-point play with Kojar, which obstructs both of those bingo lanes. And Helen's rack has not greatly improved. She's picked up 2 U's to go with the 2 N's that she retained from last time. And we can see down here that there are only 37 tiles left. So the opportunities for Helen to make a comeback are growing slimmer. She is 150 points behind. One suggestion from our railbirds is that Helen could play Nikor across here for 22 points. That would resolve the duplicate N and duplicate U on her rack, but it would still leave a U on her rack. If you do have a U on your rack, however, it's good to have an N, and Nikor would leave a U and an N on her rack. Another advantage of playing Nikor is that it would open up this bingo lane. And Helen plays it. And now it's Jeff's turn to have a problem rack with 5 vowels and just 1 consonant duplicated. He does have the advantage of, however, of his 130-point lead. One play Jeff could make would be iota across here, which would sort out his rack and also remove the triple word square threat here. It would, however, open up another bingo lane across here, but this bingo lane would be less dangerous than the one on the top row, because it would be going through a double word square rather than a triple word square. Iota would leave Jeff with a rack of EIT, which would be a reasonable leave, especially with this starting rack. There is still another blank in the bag in the 33 remaining tiles. Were Helen to have a bingo next go, she might glimpse the possibilities of a comeback. And those sentiments are being shared by some of our railbirds. Tokoloshi has whispered, hopefully Pooh has picked Sequoia or something. Indeed, let's hope. Another suggestion for Jeff is that he could play iota down here. That, however, would open up a bingo lane down here. And he plays the expected play across the top, and Helen does not have Sequoia on her rack. And I can't see a bingo on her rack at all. Helen is in a difficult position at the moment. She's a long way behind. Tiles are getting fewer and fewer, and she's just not getting good racks. She will want to get rid of the U and the duplicate G, but that's easier said than done. One way of doing it would be to play mug down here, but that doesn't score very well. Looking at the tiles that are left in the bag, 29 of them, they are quite a good selection of tiles for bingos. Helen plays mug, but Jeff has picked up the second blank, which puts him firmly in the driving seat. He will undoubtedly play a bingo this go, and probably has a selection of several to choose from. And it has been pointed out that Helen missed a bingo last go. She had munging down through this N. A painful miss for Helen. Jeff is taking his time over this move, and I noticed that none of our railbirds have suggested a bingo, but having said that one of them just has, we have the suggestion of retiring down here. It doesn't hit any double word squares or triple word squares, so maybe Jeff is looking for something better. The word interior has been suggested through the O of Koja, but again does not hit any double word squares. Jeff, having a lead of 120 at this point, will have a lead of about 160 or 170 points after making this play. and Helen's chances of coming back to secure a victory are or will be negligible. And Jeff plays interior. And that looks like the end of the game. There are 19 tiles left, but Helen's prospects of coming back from a 180-point deficit must be close to zero. Tokoloshe expresses the sentiments of the nation with, "This game is misery." Helen does not have a bingo on her rack and is also running short on time with just 7 minutes left. She could play Owry across here, which would score 18 points and open up this bingo lane. Getting a bingo at this stage of the game would be very much to reduce the deficit, however, because I don't think it's possible for Helen to come back and win. The play of Owry would, however, remove the ing suffix from her rack. But were she to have a bingo ending ing, it couldn't play across here or across here. So, or indeed down here. And Helen plays Geek for 24, opening up a bingo lane down here. Jeff has another nice rack. It looks close to being a bingo, but I can't see a bingo with the tiles on his rack. One play Jeff could make would be Bog across here, which would score reasonably well. And he plays O-Bowl. Finally, Helen has a decent rack, but I'm struggling to see it. The word reason just does play through the floating, or would play through the floating E, but doesn't quite fit in. Well, I'm looking down at the comments by our railbirds, and I've not seen any suggestions. It certainly looked as if Helen had a choice of bingos with this rack. One of our railbirds has pointed out that there are no 7s from these letters. She'll need an 8. And the only letters available for an 8-letter bingo are the L and the E down here, and we've just seen that Reasoned won't play because it's obstructed by Nicor and by Geek. So is there anything through the L? Well, you've got the word ladrones, but again, that doesn't fit. So it looks like Helen does not have a bingo. And she plays Ode. Our railbirds are as tolerant of each other's suggestions as they are of bad play on the part of the players. We have Tokoloshe responding to the suggestion of Seared by pointing out or whispering that Seared would be the worst move in living history. Jeff plays Geo, taking out the bingo lane that Helen has just opened up. And Helen does have a bingo that can play. She can play Lena's across here. But that will very much be a consolation play, because even after playing it, she's 120 points behind. But it's still good to get a bingo. Jeff has the Q, but he can play QADI down here, so he has no problems in getting rid of it. He also has QI down here. and indeed QAID across here. So a lot of possibilities for Helen. We can see at the bottom that there are no tiles left in the bag, which means that the 7 tiles mentioned here are on Helen's rack. And Jeff plays Cuddy and Simi for 40 points. A terrific play. Helen has Martlet on her rack, but I don't believe it will play anywhere. We have a nice comment from Link TF. All of my friends are going to snap when I tell them I watched this match during the BC Notre Dame football game, but I have to say that it is truly entertaining. Certainly those of us who play Scrabble love playing the game and do find matches like this entertaining. Probably slightly more fun for the American observers because this is the end of the road for the UK team in terms of winning the tournament. But that's just the way it goes, and there'll be another tournament next year. And hopefully the United Kingdom will do well in that one. Jeff goes out with Bone. And that's the end of the game. Jeff wins by 151 points, a resounding victory, both for himself and for the US. One thing I like to do at the end of games played at the Internet Scrabble Club is to quickly review the games and see if there were any lost bingos. We just get to see the highest scoring plays in the window on the right, which are not necessarily the best plays, but it is a good way of quickly spotting missed bingos. And we can see here that when Jeff played Propanes, the other options open to him were Unprops and Poprins. And this was the bingo miss from Helen, where she missed emunging, but there were no other bingos available. And that's the end of the game. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Any comments, I would be grateful to receive them. But once again, congratulations to the US for winning this year's Internet Scrabble tournament between the US and the UK. That's all for now. Thank you for watching. Good night.